A year from now, do you think tokens are going to be, a huge number of tokens are going to be registered with the SEC? How does this happen? He's going to scare the hell out of them and start suing people, and they're going to come in and register.
I think a year from now, the large entities, the large trading venues will be in the process of registering with the SEC. I think individual tokens, it's a much longer term. It's not clear whether those will be under the SEC or the CFTC or a new entity. That may take new legislation. That's probably a couple of years. But look, this is normal for a disruptive technology. In the early days of the internet, we didn't know whether you applied state sales tax to internet retail sales. This is part of the transition. But I do think in the next year, you'll see those large trading venues begin to move towards registration.
And let's keep in mind something that Gensler has said, which I think you and I both agree with. Of the 10 or 20,000 tokens that are out there, the overwhelming majority have no need to exist. They're going to go away in the face of this greater regulatory obligation because they're going to realize if they have to do business that conforms with the regulation, it's too expensive, it's too dangerous for them, and they're going to give up. They're going to lose market share. So we're going to see a radical reduction in the number of coins and tokens available, and that'll be healthy as well.
Yeah. And I would just add one last thing that Gensler said, which I think people looked over. He said the vast majority of tokens by number are probably securities, but not necessarily by market capitalization. And that's our view. Many of the largest securities are really decentralized. Bitcoin, extremely decentralized, almost certainly fits into the commodity framework. So I actually think you're going to see a natural division. And most of the large cap assets that Rick and I spent talking about probably live closer to the CFTC.
When you say the natural division, what is the natural division? What's going to distinguish something that would come under the purview of the CFTC as a commodity versus a security?
Yeah, I think there are lots of rules, and it's a facts and circumstances case.
Can you give us a simple way? Because people ask all the time about this.
As a general perspective, is it decentralized and managed by a community, or are there individuals that hold undue influence over the direction of that asset or of that token? Is really the primary point of differentiation. Securities laws are in place in part to protect against insiders knowing things that the rest of the community doesn't know.
So decentralization is the key.
Decentralization is the key, Bob.
Okay, and still, we've actually had a whole 15-minute discussion about crypto and haven't mentioned Bitcoin yet. Still, this is amazing. No Bitcoin ETF, and we're not going to have one until what?
I don't see a pathway forward on a Bitcoin ETF in the next handful of months. I don't know if it will need a change from a regulatory perspective or just the passage of time, but the short-term outlook is not particularly optimistic.
Same view?
Yes, although I've been saying that we'll see a Bitcoin ETF within the next 18 months, and I've been saying that for 7 years.
You know, people ask me about what I think of the price of Bitcoin all the time, and I tell them I'm completely agnostic on this, on the price. I don't know. But one thing that strikes me as a useful metric is rates of adoption. That seems to be very important. I see BlackRock starting to embrace crypto. Is rate of adoption a good metric to use at this point when more and more people start paying attention or using it or bringing it in? What's a good way to look at the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that the number of people who own, which is measured in wallets very commonly, the number of people who own it is a very good metric, and that number is steadily rising. What's interesting is that despite the fact Bitcoin's down 70% from its high, the number of people who own it is unchanged, which means that those who own it are not fazed by this. They recognize this is just, it happens from time to time in the market, and they're not worried.
What I think BlackRock coming in and Schwab coming in reinforces to everyday investors is that Bitcoin's not going away. A few years ago, we might have had a conversation, will Bitcoin matter in the future? I think that's now been settled. That's what those big companies moving in tell you. It's been settled. It's now how big is that future?
And the fact that it's Bitcoin that they chose to launch a fund of is a statement that there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else. Ethereum is getting an awful lot of attention, and deservedly so. They're the Coke and Pepsi of crypto. And that's where investors ought to be really focusing their attention, at least new people into the marketplace. Yeah. They'll be the last man standing, so to speak. If this thing does blow up, they'll blow up last.
One thing I don't hear a lot anymore was what excited me originally about decentralized finance is the blockchain in general and its value in reducing friction in any kind of financial transaction, whether you're buying real estate, whether you're buying stocks as a clearing mechanism, or whether you're sending $1,000 to your friend in London. Where are we on that part of it, the really radical disruptive part?
I think we're making massive progress. We saw decentralized finance grow up and really work. It even worked through the recent pullback in markets. And you're starting to see things like the DTCC look at blockchain as a way to disrupt the incredibly slow settlement times. You're starting to see congressional hearings about whether we can move derivatives exchanges to a platform that cuts out a huge number of middlemen. I think DeFi will hollow out the middle office of Wall Street within the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's a massive change.